Hello from NYC. I am in my Airbnb right now in Hell's Kitchen. Um, it might be a little loud just because of traffic noises outside, but hopefully it won't be too bad. It's the third full day of being here in NYC, and it's been really great. Basically, what I do when I come to New York is do a lot of meetings, follow-ups, and then try to see as many shows as I can. So I thought for this vlog I would share a bit about how I do that, why I do that, and what it yields. And anytime I go to like a conference or a workshop or a residency and meet other theater folks, I usually find people that I connect with, and oftentimes there are those who live in New York, and I try to follow up with them. And I think what I've learned is when I go to these conferences, for example, this year I had a residency in Nebraska, a workshop in Charleston, a conference in Atlanta, and a conference in Miami. And that may sound overwhelming, and maybe I'm learning what my actual balance is of having all this busyness going on. But I used to be very intimidated and maybe kind of worrying if I've spoken to the right people. Did I make the most of that time? And I think I shared this in a previous video, but I now try to just say I want to come away from these things with at least 3 meaningful connections. And I have found that when I leave myself kind of open to that, rather than pressuring myself to be very, I guess, business oriented and schmoozy and shaking all the hands that I can and putting my work in front of people's noses, when I instead just kind of stay open and open to meeting anybody, no matter who they are, whether they can do something for me or not, I find that I meet the right people. So there were just a lot of folks from these different things I went to earlier this year that I followed up with here in NYC. And it's really fun, more than anything, to just make these connections. And there are some who are definitely peers. We're equals in what we do, fellow playwrights, fellow directors, artists, freelancers who are trying to make their work. And then there are people who work for organizations that I would love to eventually work with or partner with, but it's not a kind of businessy follow-up where I come with a whole portfolio and I'm like, here's who I am, here's what I do, commission me, hire me. It's really, you have to genuinely care about people. And I have found that not only is that just good manners, it also just takes away a lot of the stress of doing these meetups, because you go into these meetups and you just talk about life, talk about what everybody's working on, talk about the theater they're watching, and you get a feel for the person, and it's also kind of feeling each other out, as far as it's really like dating, where you are just wanting to know initially, is there a connection here? And I think a younger me would have thought, oh my goodness, I need this person to know who I am, and I need them to just be so excited about me, and that their next sentence needs to be, I want to produce your stuff. That may happen, but more often than not, it's you get to know each other, and somebody might just say, so send me your stuff. Or they might just leave the door open and say, let me know the next time you're in New York, or I'll let you know the next time I'm in the Bay Area. It's not about closing the deal. It's about making a connection. And I think ever since I've been open to that, this whole networking thing is just so much nicer than I imagined it could be. And sure, I still get those interactions that just feel a little businessy, you know, the people who are, as they're talking to you, their eyes are darting around the room to see if there's somebody else more important than you to talk to. But because I'm trying to just be open and not sweating it, you can kind of chuckle inside and move on and realize, okay, they're not the person that I'm going to connect with, and that's okay. So I guess all that to say, I've had some great meetings here, both with the follow-ups, as well as I'm really trying to find an agent right now. And that's also been tricky, knowing how to knock on doors, metaphorically, knock on doors of agents. It's really through people you know. It has to be, because those agents don't have the time to sift through anyone and everyone. So the meetings I've been able to have really been because I was referred to these agents by somebody to start with, and then that agent might refer me to another agent. So it is work, because you do have to keep the perseverance up and the spirits up, and keep doing the hustle regardless of whether you have an agent or not. But I've actually had very pleasant meetings with agents, and just realizing, oh, they're people, and there may be, like I said, the odd one or two that may seem less human and may seem more business oriented, and that's okay. That's a completely different frame of mind, and that's just not the interactions I want to have. But more often than not, I've just been finding that people are people, and we all just want to connect, and we all want to be excited about the work we're doing. And similar to what I shared about the board meeting last week, we're all wanting to change the world through this funny thing we call theater. So I guess what it actually does come down to is, if you want to make these connections, you need to put yourself in situations where those connections are possible. And I'll say that that's much more likely if you happen to meet a person in person. The digital introduction is only going to take you so far, but until you actually sit down with a person and chat with them, I feel like the connection isn't going to be as strong. So if you can get yourself to a conference or a workshop, or even sometimes there are just social gatherings of theater artists, and maybe you're not a social person, but you don't have to be the life of the party. You don't have to meet all 30 people at an event. If you can go in and say, okay, I want to try to find the one or two people that I'm going to connect with, that I'm going to try introducing myself to, and I may have a connection with and may not, and then I'll move on to introducing myself to another person. It's less about making sure people know your name and know who you are and make your presence felt in the room. And it's more meet people the way you meet people. And like I said, I found that when I actually started doing that for myself and freeing myself up from this very corporate business mindset, it's just much more enjoyable, and I am really feeling just glad to know the people that I've been meeting. So yeah, NYC has been really pleasant, and the shows have been great, and maybe in another video I'll share about the shows. But that's my little 2 cents about meeting and networking, and maybe I already said some of this stuff in a previous vlog, but I'm trying to do 52 vlogs a year, so, you know, you get what you get. Anyway, that's all for now, and I will see you next week when I'm back in California.